everyone, hello, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. I am doing a couple of haul videos today. The weather is absolutely abysmal outside. It's been raining all weekend. Funnily enough, it's supposed to clear up tomorrow for Monday, for the start of the working week, so isn't that just Murphy's Law? It rained all last weekend too, incidentally. I'm over the rain, completely over it. I don't want the stinking hot weather of summer, but I would like some sun and some dry weather so I can actually get out in my garden and feel like a person, because when I'm away from my garden and prevented from gardening for too long, then I suffer greatly. So for everyone's sake, the weather needs to clear up. Anyway, I'm doing a couple haul videos today. So this first one is a Herbie haul video. Now, I love Herbie haul videos, absolutely love them, have always loved them, have always loved doing them, and have always loved watching them. And I don't know whether it's just because I'm not seeing videos on YouTube, like I'm not getting recommended videos. When I go searching for videos, they're not coming up, but I just don't see herb haul videos in the witchcraft community anymore, and I'm really sad about it. Joey Morris used to do the most beautiful herb haul videos, or wild crafting videos, go into depth about the herbs, talk about them, what you can use them for, give a different perspective on things. They're really invaluable. I would suggest, if you've got an interest in herbs, going and actually searching her channel and having a look, because it's really interesting getting another witch's perspective, and you often find different herbs that you've not heard of, or that you get a bit of a different idea on what to use them for, and a bit of a different energy. I just find that really helpful. I love working with herbs. It's a big part of my herbal practice, or it's a big part of my spiritual practice, is being a green witch and working with nature and working with herbs. So with that being said, let's crack on with it. Before I actually show you the herbs, I just want to show you a few things in this little jar here. One of my favourite things to do is to go beach combing, and I picked up a few of these things over the last few months, and they're in here. They'll be used for various spells and spell crafting. So I managed to find a silver dollar, actually from a beach up near my parents' place at the end of, well, near the end of last year. So that's awesome. We silver dollar. I've not seen one of these here in Canterbury, so when I saw that, I was pretty excited. I cannot remember what on earth this is called. I'm sure someone will, whoops, you can't even see, someone will enlighten me. Dad did tell me and I've completely forgotten, but I thought it was pretty cool. Again, I'm not seeing that here on the beaches in Canterbury. I've got a few hag stones, holy stones. I'm actually not going to share. This is the second time I filmed this video, and the first time I filmed it, I actually did say where I got these from. I'm actually not going to say in this video, because I don't want the place getting bombarded with people. But absolutely gorgeous. I've got quite a few hagstones around the house. I was planning to go this weekend. I want some for my Coven family, but the weather's just absolutely foul this weekend, and there's just a few little shells, this little spiral ones. Gorgeous. Yeah, the weather's foul this weekend, so not much of anything's happening apart from housework, which is always so bloody exciting. I do it all week at work. I really don't want to be doing it at the weekend too much. So let's crack on with actually showing some herbs. The first one I want to talk about is eucalyptus, one of my absolute favourites. Very, very blessed that where the pony lives, there are quite a few eucalyptus trees that I can harvest from. My whole witchy room actually the whole house really smells of eucalyptus. I dried these in my dehydrator, and I'm actually quite impressed with how they've dried. Normally I just hang it up to dry, but these have dried beautifully. Now, eucalyptus is one of my favourite plants, trees, for cleansing and clearing out. It's used medicinally to clear nasal passages, so you can use you know, that and apply it to your herbal magic, your herbal workings. It's good for getting rid of any kind of funk that you feel is clinging to you or clinging to your home or items, if you want to sort of get, you know, energy out of magical tools or things like that. It also comes in oil form, which is really reasonably priced. Most supermarkets here anyway carry oil. It's actually probably one of the most cheapest things you can buy in the supermarket at the moment, because the cost of living here has gone through the roof. I'm not going to get into ranting about that, but holy crap. So it comes in oil form. It's quite easily obtainable. You'd actually be surprised where eucalyptus grows. It's prolific here in New Zealand, obviously in Australia as well. And it's generally quite easy to find if you buy online from online pagan stores and things. Will often, more than likely, carry eucalyptus. I think it's a really good substitute for white sage. I'm not going to get into the whole debate with white sage and cultural appropriation with smudging and things like that. But I will quite often use it. Well, actually, more often than not, we'll use it in place of sage. I grow my own white sage. I've never brought white sage. I've had no luck growing it this year. I've had no luck with my seeds germinating. I don't know what that's about, but my last plant died, so I wanted to, you know, grow a couple more, and couldn't get the seeds to germinate. So eucalyptus is a great substitute for white sage, for cleansing and clearing out energy. I'm going to link, if I remember, a video again by Joey Morris, who did when she was doing her I Can't Witch Without series. I think eucalyptus was the first plant that she featured on there, and it's very, very good. So I'm going to link it down below so you can get some more information about it if you so wish. It smells gorgeous. It's beautiful to work with. It's very good for healing work as well. And if you're lucky enough to be able to harvest your own and you get these big leaves like this, there's various forms of eucalyptus, then these are great for writing on petitions on here. If you get these, you know, big double leaves, you can put bits and pieces in here, and it's quite pliable. You can, you know, roll them up, and you've got a, you know, great little vessel for a spell. You can write things on here and bury it or cast it into a body of water or cast it into the sea. Yeah, eucalyptus is just fantastic. So I harvest a good lot of it. I have access to it all year round, but I've got a whole heap of it drying that I need to jar up, and that's going to be 2 days job. I've got 3 herbs that I've never actually worked with before. Oh, actually, just to slightly interrupt myself, the bark of eucalyptus is great as well. Now, one awesome thing that you can do with the bark, if you often find bark at the bottom of a eucalyptus tree, it sheds it quite frequently. So you can take some and then dry it out for a few days, break it into bits, and if you've got a coffee grinder, you can grind it up, and it actually grinds into quite a fine powder, which you can then use to roll candles and, you know, anoint candle with some oil and then roll it in the powdered eucalyptus bark and do your cleansing or clearing work, you know, your candle work. It's just, yeah, it's just a brilliant, it's one of my absolute favorites. And I managed to find some little seed pods as well at the base of one of the trees the other day, so that's awesome. Okay, so I don't want to make this video like half an hour long as the other one, so I'm going to kind of crack through these next ones pretty quick. This is yarrow. I typically harvest the foliage, as you see here, and also the flowers as well. I've actually taken notes because I'm trying to be organised, which is not something that I normally do. I'm normally complete airhead. So yarrow is used for divination, love spells, contacting a specific person. So if you want to get in contact with someone, maybe you've had a falling out, or you just, haven't spoken to someone for a while and you want them to contact you, yarrow is a really good herb to use in communication spells. It's good for adding to dream pillows for prophetic dreaming. I find yarrow, and what I typically use yarrow for the most is for home protection work, so blends like border powders, so mixing up, whatever herbs you feel called to use, and I always add yarrow to it and sprinkling around the borders of my home or across the thresholds of doors. It's a really good aura cleanser as well. So it's one of those kind of classic witches herbs, I think. I also dried this in my dehydrator. I'm not particularly convinced that it's completely dry, so I'm going to pop that back in after this video is done. So the next few three are herbs that I've never worked with before. This first one is a herb called henbit. Looks like this. It's a very attractive herb. This was growing in my garden amongst the marigolds. And I managed to find what it was because it intrigued me. I was like, what is that? It looks like it's, it looks like a herb. It's got to have a name. It's got to have some history attached to it, and it does. So I found some information via moodymoons.com. I couldn't find anything in Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. I didn't actually look in my Paul Beryl book, but I'm thinking it's probably not in there. So it's a member of the mint family. It attracts hummingbirds, which symbolise beauty, harmony, and messages from the spirit world. You can use it in spells to encourage self-propelled projects and ambitions. Use in spells when you plan to enter into a new, already established situation. I think that is brilliant if you're starting a new job, or maybe going into like a boarding situation, like roommate. We don't really use the term roommate here, but if you're moving into a room in a house with people. Perfect for spells to smoothly transition into a new coven, job, or other social situation without ruffling feathers. It's edible, flower and the leaves are edible. Can be used in forage salads for Istara or Beltane. Helps loosen inhibitions. Helpful in spells to help with mild social anxiety or people struggling to come out of their shells. I'd be really interested to know if anyone else has worked with henbit and what you use it for. It's got a lovely smell when it's dried. It actually smells like beautiful fresh meadow hay. It's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. It's got a very soothing scent. I've found it. I quite often just lift the jar and have a smell of it and think, oh God, I just feel instantly calmer. I'm going to utilise this in an anti-anxiety charm bag for coven practice, because I struggle with being able to relax during meditation. I've always had a problem with meditation. My mind goes off on a tangent, so I think it'd be quite helpful for that. The next one is another new one, and this is called Dead Nettle. And this has an interesting smell, actually. It smells like, when you've, or someone has like, I don't know what I'm saying. Take a breath. That smell when a field, like a school field or like a sports field or something, has been mowed and the grass has been sat on the field for a couple of days, and it sort of has that, not rank smell, but that sort of old cut grass smell. And this is what dead nettle smells like. Well, that's what it smells like to me. Can't believe it took me that long to get that out. It's got lovely little purple flowers on it. So one of the interesting things I found about dead nettle is that its stem is actually square, not round. Like most plant stems are like cylindrical. Dead nettle has square stems, which is one way that you can identify it. So again, it's edible. It's associated with happiness and cheerfulness, tenacity and determination, and lifts spirits. Grounding in times of challenges, used for fortitude and willpower, healing, security and stability at home, jobs and relationships. It's not a herb that I've heard anyone talk about before. in like the herbal sort of witchy community. I haven't heard anyone talk about, you know, henbit either, but yeah, I'm again keen to see if anyone works with dead nettle. It gets the name dead nettle because it actually, the leaves look like stinging nettle, completely, almost identical, the leaves to stinging nettle. The same shape, the same sort of serrated sort of little edges, but it doesn't have any of the sting that stinging nettle has, hence the name dead nettle. So yeah, a new one for me, and one that I'm quite keen to incorporate into my practice and see how I get on with it. The last new one is this little guy, and this is called Field Speedwell. Ready to be jarred up, that one. Again, I couldn't find any information about this in any of my books, but this is growing in the yard at my horse paddock, and I've always looked at this herb because it grows in various other places, and it's one of the prettiest wild herbs that I've seen. It has this sort of lovely acid green foliage and the most darling little sky blue flowers, which are very delicate. And every time I look at it, I think I need to find out the name of this plant, because I felt really compelled to incorporate it into my herbal practice. So this is courtesy of Magic Spells and Potions. The flowers are fragile and fall off at a touch, whence are derived the names Speedwell, Farewell, Goodbye, and Forget-Me-Not. Not to be confused with the annual Forget-Me-Not, and Field Speedwell. Used for coughs, asthma, and pulmonary consumption, reduces fevers. Its magical uses are protection, healing, and spiritual problems. Definitely get a healing vibe off it, absolutely. I'm going to share this little story that I found online concerning Speedwell, because I thought it was a lovely little story. It was given the scientific name Veronica, literally true image, after a compassionate woman who wiped Jesus' face when he was on his way to Calvary. The woman's cloth is said to have become miraculously imprinted with the image of Christ's features. The woman later became known as Saint Veronica. The markings on some of the flowers of Speedwell are said to resemble the stains from Jesus' face that appeared on Veronica's sacred cloth. Saint Veronica is now the patron saint of photographers. So it's also known as Veronica. That's another name for it, although it seems to be applied to a different species of Speedwell, not this particular one. In Ireland and Scotland, Speedwell was often sewn into clothing of a person before embarking on a journey as a lucky charm. Historically, in Scotland, Speedwell was also thought to repel witches, demons, and other assorted evil spirits. So that's interesting. But yes, lovely. So this is growing around the yard at my horse paddock, and the yard where we take the horses and groom them and things. So I'm actually going to harvest probably most of it from there, because it'll just get sprayed. It'll get, you know, the owners go around and spray all the weeds and things, and I think, well, it's better for me to sort of, you know, harvest the majority of it than it to be killed by spray. So I'll be interested to see how it goes in healing work. And you can see a tiny little blue flower there. They drop off quite readily when you touch them. A beautiful, beautiful plant. Google it, or actually better yet, I will include some photos at the end of this video, because I did take a photograph of it, so I will include it with the name so you can look at it, and you might be surprised, you might have it growing near you. Okay, let's crack on. The next one is hollyhock. Now, I used to grow hollyhock in the garden. I stopped a few years ago. I don't know why. I think because I ran out of room and just, I don't know, never grew them again. But I decided this year I was going to grow some more. I actually grew them in the veggie garden. I love them. I mean, they're a beautiful, like, cottage garden plant. And I had some lemon ones as well, this sort of darker plum, and some lighter ones as well. The bees absolutely go nuts for hollyhock, completely and utterly crazy for it. There's quite a lot of information that I've written down with hollyhock. I'm not going to share it all because we'll be here forever. It's associated with Lunasa because of its tendency to reproduce in abundance. It's frequently used in rituals involving requests for abundance due to the symbolism of growth and rebirth. Grown near English cottages to promote abundance in the household, both in power and wealth, but also fertility. This amused me. In the Victorian era, hollyhocks were grown next or even obscuring the privy. The privy is like an outside toilet, like a long drop. I don't know what you call things like that in America, but yeah, we call them long drops, or privy. In that fashion, a lady wouldn't have to ask where it was, but would simply look for the hollyhocks. In the Tudor era, hollyhocks were used to prevent miscarriages by steeping the blooms in wine. Used to treat constipation, lung and bladder disease, ulcers and inflammation of the skin. Actually, I did read that they still use hollyhock extract today in skin preparations and moisturizers and creams. Egyptians made wreaths of hollyhock which were buried with mummies, indicating that in that culture the plant had connotations with the circle of life, leading the dead into their new lives. It's hard pressed to find a malevolent use for the plant. High in pollen, a favourite of bees and butterflies, the pollen drips onto the petals, spreading fertility to the witch's garden. I literally sat and watched this bee for like 5 minutes, this bumblebee who was in one of the flowers on my hollyhocks. It was absolutely smothered in pollen. It was having just the best time of its life. And it was pollen absolutely everywhere. They are brilliant for bringing bees into your garden. They're very easy to grow. They get very tall, so they will need to be staked or grown against a fence. But yeah, so I'm slightly now obsessed with hollyhock, and I'm going to be growing, I've got some seeds for some very dark black ones. I think they'll be beautiful. So that's hollyhock. I've also harvested some of the most beautiful orange roses from the garden. This is a rose that we planted in memory of our dear little dog, who sadly we had to send to another realm a couple of years ago, our little dog Brago, and we planted this beautiful orange rose in his memory. So I harvested this for autumnal work, for work with in Mabon and the equinox and the approaching autumn season. In person they're a little bit darker. They're absolutely beautiful. And lastly, I have got some beautiful hawthorn. We were talking about trees in a coven meeting recently, and one of my coven sisters said, well, you're a May baby, so your tree is hawthorn. To be perfectly honest, I'd never really looked into tree associations for my birth month. I don't know why, I just hadn't. I've always felt a very deep connection to willow. As it turned out, willow was her birth tree. But I said to her, look, I'd love to, I've never seen a hawthorn. I know that they're really magical. I'd, love to be able to harvest some, but I just don't think you get it here in New Zealand. And it was quite funny because she looked at me like I had sprouted another head, and she's like, there's a whole grove of hawthorn not actually far from where you live. So I drive up this road 2 or 3 times a day, and these trees that I had been admiring, which get these red berries in the autumn and covered in white flowers in the spring, gave no thought actually to what they were, just really admired them and completely dismissed the fact that there is a little lane opposite them called Hawthorn Lane, which is thus named after the hawthorn trees that grow on the road outside. And I also had a hedge, a hawthorn hedge as well. So I was like, well, for some reason I just didn't think that they grew here, which is kind of ridiculous because a lot of our trees, when we were colonised by the British, they brought over like a lot of the British trees that grew in their homeland, and they are now well established here. I've actually found a rowan tree as well. I didn't think we got rowan here either, but I've actually found a rowan tree on someone's property. I'm very tempted to go in the dark of night and help myself to a little bit of it. I don't know. I'll have to maybe look, see if I can find some growing in nature. But anyway, hawthorn. So hawthorn is the tree of my birth month. I'm a May baby. and I rushed out the next day and harvested some. It's such a magical tree. I already feel a very deep connection to it. I could not thank my cousin sister enough, and she was like quite amused by it all. She was like, I just would have thought you would have known that. And I was like, well, I am not the sharpest knife in the drawer, so. Okay. Hawthorn is associated with Mars and fire. Love, marriage, health, fertility, chastity and protection, and death. I get very strong associations with Morrigan with this tree. Symbolises death, used in funeral pyres, used as maypoles. Well, that makes sense given it is the tree of the month of May. Beloved by fairies, cutting down a hawthorn is considered very bad luck. Hawthorn makes up the fairy triad of oak, ash and thorn. It is said where all three trees grow together, one can see the fae. I am wanting to grow one of these in my garden. I just have to find the room for it, but I'm pretty sure that I will be able to harvest some in the winter when it's lost its leaves and things and it's dormant, and actually be able to get one growing. So that's going to be a plan for winter. But yeah, very, very excited. It's actually also edible. The flowers are known as cheese and, cheese and crack? No, I can't remember. Cheese and something. The flowers are edible. Apparently the flowers don't have a very nice smell. They sort of smell like rotting meat, apparently. So I'll have to suss that out. But the berries are edible. You can make jellies out of the berries, and apparently the leaves are edible as well. And the bark obviously can be used in workings, and the branches can be made into wands. It is said that you knew a witch's house by the hawthorn hedge that she grew. So I now want hawthorn trees all over the place. My husband's like just rolled his eyes at me. Of course you do. So that is my little Herbie haul. For goodness sake, if you are like me and you consider yourself a green witch and you do a lot of wild harvesting, a lot of foraging, you have a garden, please either comment on my video and let me know your channel, because I would love to support you. I think that's really important on YouTube, is actually supporting witches in the community, because it just seems to be a bit of a dying thing. Or if you know of someone that has a channel that uploads these types of videos, then again, let me know what they are, because I would love to support them. Okay, I am going to go have something to eat, and I'm going to be back in a little bit with a witchy haul. I will catch you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.